Mastering English. Understanding, check the gauge. Hello, dear learners. Today, we're diving into a practical and commonly used English phrase, check the gauge. This phrase might pop up in everyday conversations, and it's crucial to understand not just its literal meaning but also the context in which it's used. So, let's get started and decode the nuances of this handy expression. First things first, let's break down the phrase, check the gauge. A gauge is an instrument or device used to measure, display, or regulate something, typically something related to quantity, such as pressure, fuel, or temperature. So, when someone says, check the gauge, they literally mean to look at this measuring device to obtain some information. It's commonly used in contexts like driving a car, where you might need to check the fuel gauge to see how much gas you have left. While check the gauge can be used literally, it's also important to understand its contextual and figurative applications. For instance, in a work setting, if your boss tells you to check the gauge, it might mean they want you to assess the current state or progress of a project, not necessarily look at a physical measuring device. Understanding the context is key to deciphering the true meaning behind the phrase. Let's see, check the gauge in action with some examples. 1. In a car, before we start our road trip, let's check the gauge to ensure we have enough fuel. 2. In a professional setting, we need to check the gauge on our current marketing strategy to see if we're hitting our targets. 3. In daily life, I'm baking a cake, and I need to check the gauge of the oven to make sure it's at the right temperature. These examples show how the phrase can be used in various situations, both literally and figuratively. Understanding phrases like, check the gauge, enriches your English vocabulary and makes you more confident in different conversational contexts. Remember, it's not just about the literal meaning. It's also about the situation in which the phrase is used. I hope this video helps you gauge your understanding of English better. See what I did there? Keep learning, and until next time, happy learning!